Welcome to this episode of TV Crew Talk. My guest is Darren Chiappetta. Welcome to the show, Darren.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about, how we met a lot of years ago on the WWE tour. You were a backstage producer, director for the vignettes that we shot together. And let's just talk about that, your experience there.
Sure. My background was always in production, mostly sports stuff. Just kind of applied on a whim and got the job. As you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes into all of that backstage, the entire operation. And obviously when we started, it was Vince McMahon was still running the show.
Right.
And so there were a lot of changes, critiques, various things that could potentially throw a monkey wrench in anything that we'd want to do, and there was always some new edict that we found out about after the fact. So, but was there for almost 3 years. Got to work with you, got to work with Luis, who was the other main camera guy, kind of running around everything from set shots to shots in remote shots in bars and stuff.
Right.
Maybe we can get into that one a little bit later, but some amazing stuff. The thing that always blew me away about WWE was the production value. I mean, the fact that it was a concert, it was a TV show, it was all of these vignettes and all this personality stuff, and
Right.
it would all come together live at that time in a way that was amazing. And then just the transition from city to city to watch the people and the way they set up an entire arena in basically 10 hours was nuts.
Yeah, I agree. It was those guys, it's like a special talent doing what they do, coming in at 6 in the morning to set up a show that's gonna go live at, 7 o'clock at night. So backtracking, how did you get into television, or what made you get into TV?
Yeah, it was something that I'd wanted to do my whole life.
Mhm.
NFL films was always the sort of original goal, but as school kind of developed and got into college, I probably did 10 internships from anywhere from local stations where I went to school in Pittsburgh. And then I'm from Connecticut. So in the summer I would do internships here. I did one at CNBC in New Jersey.
Okay.
And so it just, and then like you do, or like people used to, when you need a job, you hustle, right? And you start looking for,
Totally.
so it was just runner jobs, and wherever I could get into sports TV was my thing. Wherever I could get into sports, I interned or was a runner, sorry, at the 97 X Games,
Okay.
which led to a position at ESPN.
The
It was in San Diego.
I
That
think
was I think that was
the
the
winter
second
one, the
one.
next winter ones.
Yeah, this was the summer.
Okay.
That year was noteworthy. That was in the middle of the X Games was the Tyson Holyfield ear bite.
Oh,
I
okay.
remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so was at ESPN for a couple of years, then was at ABC as a freelancer. When they first started, this is how old I am, high definition broadcasts of Monday Night Football. And then became freelance and have been, essentially that for the last 25 to 30 years.
So, now post WWE and everything like that, I know you do a ton of track and field. That's one of your specialties. As a producer for that sort of show, what what exactly is the role?
It's a lot of
What do you do?
logistics. Yeah, it's a lot of logistics. I kind of learned through the NBC model, which is obviously the best one, I think. They do all the Olympics, all the major events. So it's planning everything from show order in terms of what races. There's obviously collaboration with USA Track and Field and the event and everything else, but uh, event order
Right.
itself, the timing between events, how those are set up. Again, those are mostly dictated by the event, but sometimes there's some wiggle room depending on, whatever is in the broadcast. It's coordinating with obviously, and this, not just track and field, this is anything sports related, especially, but I would say any production is communication with your announcers.
Right.
Who do you want to feature? Who do you want to talk about? What kind of things what kind of storylines can we tell, and establish throughout the broadcast. So it's all that lead up, which can be anywhere from a week to, the Olympics. They're months of planning. And, uh, and then when the show starts, it's just, you have it's basically, and again, this goes for anything, it's basically telling the stories visually live, making sure you have your replays and your graphics lined up that you
Right.
want, and then trying to execute all that stuff within the framework of the live event is first. So if I have something planned that I think is this great element, but something on the track happens is that's the thing, right? The
Right.
the event is the thing. It's not all of this extra stuff that I do, which is certainly great and helpful and can really add to a broadcast, but at the end of the day, it's what happens on the track, the field, the court, whatever.
Right.
And so you have to let that drive what you do. There's a lot of what I call format producing where it's just like, all right, here we're going to do A, here we're going to do B, here we're going to do C. Well, sometimes something happens between A and B, you got to pivot.
Right.
And, I think most experienced producers are good at that, but there are some,
Now,
especially new ones that
what's the difference between producing for track and field versus like football or basketball?
I think, again, track and field is very regimented. At 12:07, you're going to have the 400-meter hurdles.
Right.
Um, is it even 400-meter hurdles? It's been a few minutes,
All right.
so I apologize. It's a 200-meter, whatever. Um, and yeah, there's some structure in bat and ball games where it's like, all right, quarters and kickoffs after touchdowns, that kind of thing. But there's a lot more, I think, flexibility kind of within.
More reacting to what's going on than to
Yeah,
basically the plot and plan of what is
yeah, I think
set
so.
forth.
I
Yeah.
think so.
So what where do you see your career going forward?
I mean, I think we're in a very interesting period in the industry, sport, when I say the industry, I mean sports.
Right.
Um, you know, y- a lot of stuff is happening not on site, which is a humongous change from what we grew up with and what has been the norm for so long.
Let's get into that. Explain. We can talk about. I assume you're referring to like REMI productions.
Yeah.
So let's explain that. Like, what exactly is a REMI production? How is it affecting the industry? And we can take it from there. Because I could tell you, one of our big uh, vendors or clients is MLS, and it's totally changed the landscape where we used to have, producer, director, EVS, TD on site. Now we just have camera people, audio people, utilities, and video on site, and everything's getting shipped to uh, offsite in Florida, and one control room crew can do three games a night.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, you're talking about, yes, you always have to have technical people, cameras and stuff. You can't
Right.
if they figure out how to shoot from home, we're all at work forever.
Maybe she's done.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's been a huge change. I think it was starting to go that way pre-pandemic,
Right.
and then pandemic just accelerated because you
Yeah.
couldn't be on site.
Right.
So yeah, it's most of the time your technical folks, your audio, your cameras, um, especially are on site. You'll have like a smaller truck that will just basically mix the audio, make sure the camera feeds are coming back to whatever it is, whether it's a truck offsite like in Florida, if it's a control room.
Right.
I'm directing a game this week. Um, the game is in Texas. I'm traveling to North Carolina because that's where the control room is. Like, so, and then there's, different vendors have different delays, and so it's their logistics there that you have to adjust to. But, it's clear that that's the way production is going. Every major network does some version of it. ESPN is doing, I think, maybe 3 or 4 packages on site. I mean, you talk about the Olympics.
It's all pretty much remedied.
Yeah, I mean, I've done 2 Olympics for NBC. I was a staffer there for a couple years. The first one was 2018, I was actually on site,
Right.
and then 2020, which became 21, I was, back in Stanford. But I think right now, like, for Summer Olympics, I don't know if this will change because it's in the States in
Right.
28, but I think it was track and field was on site, swimming and diving,
Right.
and gymnastics.
Right. Those
So
3 events will always be
right,
top.
because those are the high rating, those are the you gotta be boots on the ground, but however many there are, what 40, 50 Olympic of every other one was based in Stamford,
The
Connecticut.
announcers are in a little tiny closet.
Yeah, there was a row of 25 announcer booths
Right.
where you would take in a feed because there's a world feed for Olympics, so there's one produced by, OBS.
Right.
You just take in that feed, you talk over it, they put it into a tape machine, they slap the segments together however they decide to do it, and yeah,
Right.
away we go. So but yeah, to your point, so REMI production, what I'm also seeing a little bit of too is on-site, but smaller production companies. So
Right.
it's sort of a race to the bottom line in terms of the bid, how much you can, how much you can do for how little money.
Right.
Um, which, for old heads like us, it's frustrating because you want to be on site and you want to be doing the game and in the moment and in the atmosphere, but it's not the way it's going. And I think it it limits, to some degree, freelancers' opportunities. It also limits some staff. Like you said, you could do 3 games in one night. Well,
Right.
you could use one group of people to do that, whereas in the past, that would be 3 full groups of 40 to 50 people at 3 different places. Now you're doing it with a staff of 30 total.
Now, our other company, Validity Entertainment, we do a lot of live streaming of, corporate events, galas, and sporting events too. Um, Live streaming seems to be, and I'm not talking to like the big platforms, to the smaller platforms. Seems to be a way to do some sporting events in a cheaper fashion. Have you done any of those types of events?
Um, yes, but so yes, a smaller model,
Mhm.
but still on networks. So
Right.
ESPN, ESPN Plus, ESPNU, ESPN2. There are certain vendors that I was approached by one, had to turn the event down, but it's literally getting to the place where not only are you offsite as a producer or director, you're not even in a control room, or I was going to do it from home.
Right. Yeah. We've done it. Our company's done plenty of events where every major position has been in their house.
Yeah.
The director to the producer to the A1, the TD. It's just, and it's all produced in the cloud.
Mhm.
That's what our company does. We produce everything virtually, uh, as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's only gonna continue as the technology gets better. I mean, cameras people at home are not gonna notice a difference, especially, like, the top prosumer cameras are yeah, they're not as good as a full, a camera that ABC or ESPN would use, but people at home, you're covering the game, like,
Right.
I joke, uh, that there's gonna come a time soon, and I've seen it,
Right.
where there's gonna be one camera at midfield or midcourt or whatever, that's just gonna go back and
Of
forth,
course.
and
Yeah.
people at home, like, especially for the smaller events, I mean, I don't know that you even need more than that.
Right.
Obviously, you're not gonna get the same depth of coverage,
Tell the same story.
but if you just wanna watch the game,
Right.
it's certainly a viable option.
Now, one last question for you, and I get this question all the time, is from new people trying to break into the business. What what advice would you give
Ooh,
with everything in mind that we've just kind of talked about?
sure, I think versatility is probably the first thing. Being able to know how to shoot, edit, um, uh, you know, produce, direct.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of the just content creation in general, like you learn a lot of those skills. I mean, you can argue whether or not they're learned the right way or not.
Right, right, right.
Um, so versatility is key. I think you asked me this question 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even. I probably pre-pandemic, I
Okay,
probably would have
yes,
had a different answer.
me too.
Um, I would have said freelance is probably your best bet because it's an opportunity to work with various clients, get a feel for how different people do different productions, and then maybe into a staff position. I think we're at a moment in time in this industry where if you're not a staff person, you have no safety at all.
Right.
Freelancers are, you know, with the REMI stuff that we talked about and sort of the consolidation of how productions work, where there might have been 100 opportunities in a given weekend
Right.
6 years ago, there's maybe 20.
Right.
And it's still the same pool of people that are fighting for those opportunities. So,
I tell people to, that are still in college, or that they want to get into the TV broadcasting industry, is take a lot of networking and a lot of computer classes, learn AWS, because you never, because we use it on a daily basis in production with everything being in the cloud, know how to navigate all that because you're just going to make yourself more versatile.
yeah, I think so.
Stay away from being a camera operator because there's just thousands of them out there right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tech is where it's at.
Right.
Not just talking about TV, obviously,
Right.
or broadcasting or streaming, but yeah. I mean, I think if the more holistic, and that's what I mean by versatility, is sort of the more holistic
Yeah.
knowledge base you can have. Um, you got to make yourself valuable in ways that we would have never thought to have been.
Yeah, I tell people that, I tell them the industry is short on video operators, audio people, TDs, EVS, lead EVSs especially, and EVS, but it takes time to get to the level to get hired.
Right. Which is another sort
The
of,
problem that
yeah, like chicken and the egg.
there's no on the job training. So, one thing that our company has done is we have a training school, and then the people that come to the school, do like a 2-day boot camp, and then we have them shadow with us,
Okay.
like a bunch of games throughout the season, depending on what position they're in, and we'll eventually hire them once we know that they're capable of doing a good job and working on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bottom line, it's a lot harder than it was. There's like I tell people also, there's because I'm so old and wise. There's more sports on TV than there ever has been, and there's fewer opportunities
Right,
than there ever have been.
right.
And I don't see that changing. Of
Changing. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today.
course.
And again, this has been TV Crew Talk, and we look forward to our next episode next week.